Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Creator's Mind. This is episode 9, guys, and we have another great one for you here. We're going to jump right into it because there's a lot to discuss here. This one here is, what is the golden pack ratio and why does it matter? This is something that I learned as I come across developing our first set, Ravaged Lands. I did a lot of research. We talked back, I think it was episode 6, Does the Learning Ever Stop? We talked back on that episode about how much you have to learn behind the scenes, how much you have to learn ahead of time before crafting and building and designing your TCG. I think that when you really look into how to build a set, there's a lot of factors that don't get talked about. It's way more than just designing up cards, making sure the cards are balanced, making sure the mechanics work, making sure the fundamental aspects of your expansion set or your base set has everything that it needs to get the game off the ground, to get the game going in the direction you want it to go. We talked last episode as well on how important it is to create chase cards in your products, right? So this is where the golden pack ratio, we felt as though this was the next appropriate step for episodes, because we talked about learning, we talked about how to design good starter products, and that was included as sets as well, and how important chase was to your card game. And so with this, the next appropriate step, this is something that I personally learned early on and have been really trying to implement into Legions as much as possible. So we've touched briefly on the concept of pack or box chaff. And so just to kind of refresh a little bit, when you go to open a product or when you go to design a product, but we'll be the more like the player right here. When we go to open a product, what do you want? You're hunting for the chase, of course, but you want to get the cards you need to build your deck. You want to get those great cards that you either saw in spoiler season or that you've been anticipating potentially expanding upon your deck, expanding upon your starter product, or at least introducing you into a great world of the game if you're a new player starting, whether you're starting in the base set or an expansion later on down the road. Ultimately, you're trying to get the most value out of your box, and where we're going to talk about a little bit of box chaff is it's known in some circles or some games that box chaff is a very real thing. And I keep saying this term, but what does it mean? So it means that when you open product, you have an excessive amount of it. Not because you bought a bunch of product, but you have an excessive amount of, let's say, commons, or an excessive amount of filler cards. Cards that the game designers or the companies built into the product to pad the set. Maybe a lot of unplayable cards. Maybe just cards built for draft and sealed. Or maybe just a lot of even additional playable cards, but so many of them that they're far beyond your playset of 2 or 3 or 4 that you're allowed to play. So all that ends up going into your large bulk collection, right? And or left on the table at major events or at game stores, or stacked in a pile and given back to the game store that they ultimately either put in their giant bulk collection or end up in the trash. So that's what we call box chaff. That is just too much. It's an overabundance of essentially filler cards. So the other side of box chaff is box anemia. And box anemia is just like the word anemic, is not enough. It's too small. It is almost empty. So when you approach a box with the concept of box anemia, you don't get enough essential pieces. You don't necessarily get all the commons. You don't get enough playable pieces. Maybe the chase cards are just far, far too hard to get. So that box is very anemic. You don't get enough. Enough to satiate the player, maybe not enough to recuperate the value or what you consider the value of you buying that product. Maybe the set is 300-400 cards and the box only gives you 180, or only gives you 200 or even 360, but the set is 600, whatever it may be. You're looking at half or less of what the product offers set size wise or collectability wise, and that is where you get run into box anemia. So how does this circle all the way back around to the golden pack ratio? Now, across a lot of research that I've done over the past 10 years of building legions, I've come across this golden pack ratio described in multiple ways. It's not always titled that, but it's the title I felt that was best suiting for what we're talking about here. Kind of like the golden rule, do unto others as you would want done unto you. We have something similar in the TCG space, the golden pack ratio. And so we're going to discuss that a little bit. So when you build a product, when you build a TCG, inherently you have to build booster boxes, and you're going to have booster packs in there. So the concept is, and you see it across a lot of TCGs, some boxes of games have, if it's a small auxiliary product, they have 10 packs. Some of them have 5 packs. Much like our Bountiful Harvest was 5 packs of 10. Some of them have 18 packs. Some of them have 24 packs. Some of them have 36 packs, all per box. Some of them have card packs that are 7 card packs. Some are 9 card packs. Some are 12 card packs. Some are 10 card packs. Some are 15 card packs. So how does the designer and the developer decide how many cards per pack and how many packs per box? I've circled around this for a while, and I don't see a lot of creators talk about this. If you listen to things like Mark Rosewater's 20 Years, 20 Lessons for Magic, or you're listening to different seminars like The Psychology of the Cell, how to design better board games, designing better boosters, things like that, you start to piece some things together. And this is where, again, it comes back to, does the learning ever stop? If you do the work, if you go back to our first episode, if you do the hustle and you're passionate enough about it, you can really produce some excellent products. And sometimes it even has to retrain the consumer. So in a lot of games, not naming any of them specifically, but there are a lot of games that have programmed the consumer over time that box chaff is okay. And players not necessarily saying they like it or they approve of it, but they're so used to it that, and when they open a product, there's just insane amounts of bulk. So that when a game or a company, particularly a new one in the industry, produces a box anemia or something that doesn't give you everything, it's looked at as more of a money grab. So where do you find that fine line? Where do you draw that line in the sand? And that is the golden pack ratio. So now that we've talked about it and the all around it, let's talk about the pack ratio itself. So you go golden pack ratio, like algorithms in a set, or like so many things in life, is based off of mathematics. And let's just break it down really simple. you take the total set. We're going to use our Frontier set, for example. Our Frontier set is 181 cards in total in the set. So if you take 181 cards in the set, that's the total set size, then you times it by 5%. That'll give you a number. And then you plus 1. So you take 180 or 181 times by 5%, it should give you somewhere around 8. Or somewhere around 9, sorry. And then you plus 1. That gives you 10. That's why in our Frontiers product, you see our booster box, or our blister box is what we call it. You see the packs at 10 cards per pack. That gives you the ratio that you need at the appropriate pull amount to be able to get the commons you need at the appropriate amount, to get the uncommons you need at the appropriate amount, and to get the rares at what you need at an appropriate amount. Obviously, the Renowns and the Exalteds and the Elysian are all chase cards, so they're on their own algorithm. But when it comes to the playable necessary game pieces at the common, uncommon, and rare slot, they are amalgamated into this golden pack ratio. Now, as long as the ratio hits the appropriate amount of cards per pack or the appropriate packs per box, you have a healthy distribution of product, healthy distribution of your set in your product to maintain the box's integrity and overall to maintain its value. Now, the regular consumer does not know this, nor probably should they. It's on the designer's shoulders to learn this, to implement it, and to make sure that they build the best booster product they can to give the players not only the best opening experience, but to give the players the best inherent value for what they've purchased. So when we did Ravaged Lands, since it was our base set and we wanted to bake in collectability early on, we leaned a little away from the golden pack ratio, knowing its established baseline, and tried to make a little bit more of an anemic product to inherently build in collectible chase from the beginning. But when we approached Bountiful Harvest, because it was a smaller set, there's a reason why it's 5 packs per box to fit the golden pack ratio. And then when Frontiers came out, it was 10 cards per pack to fit the golden pack ratio. So these are the things that we really trying to focus on to make sure that we produce the best value product for the best bang for your buck. So we're going to be implementing this into Empires and the Rise that's currently on Kickstarter right now. And this is the direction and the knowledge that I'm taking and moving forward into other products. Now you might be asking why it's 5% plus 1. I can't tell you really the math behind that. That is what some of the industry Goliaths, some of the more educated people than I have figured out. And that information's out there for every designer, right? I'm not a math guy. I'm a creative guy. That's why I make card games. So, but I can't deny the fact that there's math and there's logic behind everything. And that's something that needs to be taken into consideration as a designer when you're designing games. Like I said prior, I did a hand algorithm for Ravaged Lands and established an early algorithm setup that I can build future products on, and I work with our manufacturer to do so. So it is a very intense algorithm. A lot of math was involved and a lot of time. It was one of the harder parts of designing the game. And from there, because I established that baseline, I can then play around with the golden pack ratio to make sure that we at Future Lore Studios give the best product to our fans that open the Legion's Realms of War booster products. So that was just a little bit into the golden pack ratio and why it matters. Ultimately, it matters at the end of the day to make sure that the consumer or the player, the collector that is opening the product gets the best value they can for their money spent without having a whole bunch of extra bulk all the time. So, thanks for watching, or thanks for listening for this one, guys. It was a little more of an in-depth episode to capitalize on some of the prior episodes amalgamated into one. So we're going to do that. We already talked about in the previous episodes that we're going to be scratching the surface. And then we're going to do some of these little more deep dives into little small integral pieces. We actually talk about the golden pack ratio on episode 7 of the Legion's Lounge podcast that is also found in this YouTube channel. So feel free to check out that one if you want a little more information on the golden pack ratio. We talk with Samuel Graham from Samuel Graham Does TCGs, and we break that down on episode 7. So if you want to learn more about the golden pack ratio, feel free to jump over to that podcast, or look up the stuff for yourself if you're a designer, or even if you're a player and you're interested more in the golden pack ratio and how TCGs are built. But ultimately, make sure you circle back around and come back to the next episode Inside the Creator's Mind tomorrow, because we're just going to keep giving you some more of this awesome information. Alright guys, until next time, this was Inside the Creator's Mind episode 9, and we'll see you back here for episode 10. Thanks. Have a good one, y'all.